Yep, it's broke. In this video, I'm going to show you how to fix a hole just like that. So stay tuned. This one is going to be action-packed all the way through. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive right in. Okay, so we've got a pretty good hole established here. The first thing I would do is kind of clean out all this extra stuff that's left over just like this and just get rid of it. All right, so if there's any more crumbs under there, I wouldn't worry about it. Here's a good one here. We'll get rid of that one. The rest of it can just stay in there. Who cares? Now, if your hole happens to be where one of the baffles are, because there's baffles all on the inside of the door to give it support this way, you may just have to cut one of the baffles so that you can do your work, just get it out of the way. So a lot of people like to take spray foam, right, and fill the hole with spray foam, but I don't really like to do that. Spray foam is not that strong. I'm going to use spray foam, but not just spray foam. I took some door shims right here. These are just ordinary door shims, and I'm going to glue them on the inside, right, to give it a nice solid backing, and then I'm going to drill some holes in it and fill it with spray foam to give it some support. So depending on the width of your hole, you might not want to glue the first piece in unless you can make sure you can get the second piece in. I can get my second piece in, so I'm going to go ahead and glue in the first piece. If you're finding any value in this video, please subscribe to this channel. I come out with videos like this as often as I can. Now I'm using this CA right here that has an activator. All right, so all you got to do is put the CA on one surface and then spray the other surface with activator. I can't spray the underside of this, so I'm going to put the CA under here first and then spray the activator on the shim. Make sure and get a good coat in there. And you do have to work pretty fast. You don't want this to dry up on you. And we're just going to spray a little activator on here. And they want you to hold it for about 12 seconds. All right, so that glue that I just showed you right there, Mitra Apple or Miter Apple or whatever that's called, is absolutely worthless for this application. It didn't even try. It was like putting water on there. It didn't even try to stick. So I had some of this Gorilla Super Glue. It's like a gel, and I put this on there, and it did work just fine. So I went ahead and opened the opening up just a little bit more. I've got a third piece, a little piece right here. Remember I said you got to get your pieces in before, otherwise you may not be able to. And then I put a screw through it. That way I can hold it up, right, when I put the glue on there. And I did the same thing with the second piece that I'm going to put in there. So I'm going to go ahead and put glue on both surfaces. And then we'll hold on to our screw. Line it up with the other one and pull. See that? It's 5 seconds and it works. Boy, I don't know what the deal was with that other one. And we'll get our last piece in. So we'll just have to slide this back and forth to get the glue on that. We're just going to let that dry a few minutes before we move on to the next one. This is still really not that strong. All right, so it's been a few minutes and we're doing pretty good here. So we'll just remove our screws we put in there. Now what I want to do is drill 3 or 4 holes. Don't push too hard. I don't know how strong that is. Just make sure and make the holes big enough for your straw. Now I'm going to use my insulating foam. Great Stuff is a good brand. I was just too cheap to buy Great Stuff, but it is better. And let's go ahead and fill up this void. Now, you can do this while the door is standing up, but it's just as easy to do it while the door is laying down, and then the foam won't try to run down to the bottom of the door. All right. So we're coming out the other holes. Well, it looks like we got enough foam here. It all oozed out of those holes. So this is one of the reasons I don't like to use foam as an exclusive, without putting the wood for a backer, because of that. That would be inside the door, and you're going to put your Bondo filler on top of that. And if somebody hits that in just the right spot, it's going to happen all over again. So with the wood there and the foam pushing behind it, I believe it's much stronger. So let's break that off of there. And I'll just take a chisel and clean this up, and I'll be right back. All right, got the foam all cleaned up off of there. Now we're going to do the fun stuff with the Bondo. So if you're any good at drywall, it's basically the same thing. Now this is the all-purpose putty Bondo, sandable in 15 minutes, so time is of the essence. You don't want to waste time, so just put some hardener across there and mix it up and get to spread it, because it'll dry up on you. That's good enough. First coat is really not that critical. You're just trying to fill up this gap in here. Take something smooth and smoosh it out. And that's good enough for right now. We're just going to let that dry right up. Okay, got a second batch mixed up. And we'll probably have to put on, maybe 3 coats or so. I'm just going to put this second coat on here. And then I'm going to let it get good and dry. That's all there is to it. This part here is up to your skill, How well can you work the mud? I think I'm going to leave it just like that and smoosh it out and then put one more coat on it after this. Okay, so here we are on the next day. Now, I went ahead and sanded after my second coat was dry last night, and I put on a third coat, and then I let that dry overnight. Now, even though the Bondo says it's sandable within 15 minutes, it is best to let it sit for quite a few hours to feather the edges real well. If you try to sand it within a half an hour or an hour, it won't feather like it does here. So it's best to let it sit overnight. Now, my motto on this is, I've already sanded this part, is if you can feel it, you'll see it when you paint it, okay? So this part is pretty smooth. I've left this part right here still unsanded. Now, a sanding sponge like this will actually work if you have patience, but if you have a jitterbug sander, that will sand this better, because this doesn't sand like drywall mud. It's pretty tough to sand, so patience is key on this. So just basically kind of go in circles. And now if your Bondo winds up in this area, because that's where the hole was at, you'll have to you can even take, a chisel and kind of grind away at this right here to kind of duplicate these grooves. If you wind up here, you'll have to do the same thing. I put my hole here on purpose because I knew it'd be easier. But if yours winds up here, you can still repair it this way, but you'll just have to be a little more creative with the Bondo. Now this is an 80 grit sanding sponge, and it's still pretty tough. A piece of sandpaper would probably even work better because you can push with your fingers, but this is all I've got available right now. All right, so that's pretty smooth across the edges. Remember, if you can feel it, you'll see it. So let me vacuum this up, and then I'll give you my ideas for cutting these grooves in here to kind of help this match a little bit better. All right, so I've got most of these lines done, but let me show you what I did. Basically, I just took a straight edge and kind of lined up with the other lines, right, and then drew a line on each of the existing lines that you can still see. Now, this is an intersection right here, so across the intersection, we have straight lines. So I just took my straight edge like that and drew a line like so, and then I did the same thing all through here, and I've already cut all these. So let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm using a Dremel with this type of a bit that's got a really small ball on the end of it right here. Here's a picture of it. Looks, it's small, so you can make a pretty detailed line. And then basically I just followed my pencil line, and I chased it with a vacuum cleaner because when you get to the next line, you won't be able to see, of course, unless your door is standing up. Then all the sawdust or the dust will fall down to the floor, and that shouldn't be a problem. But laying down, you do need to chase it with a vacuum cleaner. Okay, so don't worry if your lines aren't straight because they're not straight from the door. But on these lines that are straight, like in these areas here, I just took my straight edge like that and then chased it with the Dremel. Just like that, right, to make a straight line. And then after I did all that, I just took a sanding block and kind of sanded that to get rid of any roughness there. And we're ready for primer. So let's see what this looks like. Now, by the way, we're strong. You know, pretty good. Spray foam, you know, maybe it would hold up like that. But with that wood backing there, it's almost as good as new. And there you have it. I wouldn't skip the primer part. I would definitely use the primer first before you paint this. But yeah, the lines aren't going to be perfect, you know, but from any more than 2 feet away, you're not going to be able to tell. From here, it looks pretty good, and I think it's going to be fine to put this door back in service. Okay, so I hope this video has been helpful for you. Thanks for watching.